How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Look at that. I got the Apple event on. I'm watching it without the sound on. AirPods, first thing coming out. I'm here with you. I'm also distracted. I will focus on you, however, and not my beloved Apple. I'm in the cult. You know, I went to New York last week and I had to walk 7 times around the cube praying to Steve Jobs. It's just what we Apple people do. 877-973-7425 is the phone number. Should you wish to be on the program, would be delighted to have you with me. We've got to talk about some interesting data from NBC News and a survey they did. A survey has been conducted of GenZ voters. That is the youngest voters. It's an NBC News poll, and it gave Gen Z voters a list of choices on how to define personal success. Do you know who the most family-focused group is? It's not women who voted for Harris. It's certainly not men who voted for Harris. And it's not even women who voted for Trump. It's men who voted for Trump. Now, the priorities are a little bit mixed up. Young men, Gen Z men who voted for Trump, their number one priority is having kids. Getting married is number 4. I would encourage them to reorder that. But young men who voted for Donald Trump, their top 5 issues: having kids, achieving financial independence, having a job or career you find fulfilling, and getting married. And then number 5, having enough money to do the things you want to do. Among women who voted for Donald Trump, number 1 is achieving financial independence. Then having a job and career, then owning a home, then being spiritually grounded, then having enough money to do the things you want to do. Tied with young men who voted for Trump, number 6 is having children, and then no debt, using your talents to help others, and then being married. Oddly enough, the women and the men who voted for Kamala Harris put being married ahead of having kids. The young women and the young men who voted for Trump put having kids ahead of being married. The problem is that the men who voted for Kamala Harris, being married is number 9 on their list. And with women, it's number 11, with 12 being having children. Number 9 and number 10 for men who voted for Harris is being married and having kids. For the young women who voted for Harris, it's being married and having kids are 11 and 12. Both of them, both the men and the women for Kamala Harris, had having emotional stability higher. Having emotional stability was higher for all of them, to their credit, among the Gen Z voters for Harris and Trump, men and women. Number 13, the very bottom issue, was fame and influence. Fame and influence. And all of them, other than the men who voted for Trump, had being able to retire early as towards the bottom. The women who voted for Harris show you how problematic the thinking is for a lot of young women on the left these days, because they wanted to make their family proud, be spiritually grounded, and be able to retire early before being married and having kids. there's some warning here in the data for all of them. For Gen Zers on the right, having kids as a higher priority than getting married is a problem because the two-parent nuclear household comes first. By the way, if you're listening and you're young, you're in high school or college, hear me out. There's a guy, Brad Wilcox. I know him. He does Institute for Family Studies, works at the University of Virginia. He is probably the foremost authority on families and stability in society. And I need you, if you're young, hear me out. Hear me out here. Do you know the secret to success in the United States? It's not actually a secret, and it's in the data. Do this in order. Number 1, graduate from high school. Number 2, get married. Number 3, have kids. That order. People who get out of high school before they get married and then get married before they have kids are going to be inordinately more wealthy than any other group of people. And among classes of people, among the working class, the most successful members of the working class graduated from high school, then got married, then had kids. Among the middle class, graduated from high school, got married, then had kids. Among the wealthy, graduated from high school, then got married, then had kids. Along the way, if you want to throw in graduated from high school, get a college degree, you can get married while you're getting the college degree, and that's fine. Have the kids after the college degree, move on. People who have college degrees in this country, there's a lot of devaluation of college degrees right now. And I get it. No aspersions on my part. If you don't have a college degree, God bless you. I know many wealthy plumber out there right now who never went to college. I know a lot of people who are very successful, very wealthy, never went to college. But did you know that people who have a college degree have historically lower unemployment than any other group? Consistently across the board, every economic downturn, including right now, the unemployment rate for people with college degrees is about 2%. The national average right now, about 4.2%. People without a college degree, it's slightly higher than that. With a college degree, about 2% unemployment. There's a path to stability in society, and it runs through first getting out of high school before you have kids and get married. Now, what about those of you, let me just talk to you for a minute, those of you who didn't do it in the traditional way. The valedictorian from my high school graduated from high school and had 2 kids before she got out of high school. And by the way, she was 18. She's the valedictorian for the high school. Don't know what happened to her. But she got out of high school. She did well. I know people who got pregnant in high school. They got married, and they do quite well. You know the common element there, by the way, of the people who do it the untraditional route? You get pregnant, and then you get out of high school, and then you get married, or you get pregnant and get married in high school, and then you get out of high school. You know the additional component that tends to realign things for their better? Actively involved in a faith community. The people who regularly go to church do better than other people. And those people who didn't do the successful pattern of get out of high school, then get married, then have kids, they did the get pregnant, have kids, then get out of high school, then get married, or kids and then marriage and then high school, get into an active faith community, you tend to do better because the faith community takes care of you as you participate in it. Church involvement actually plays a big role in success. But there's another issue here that we should dive into, and this is the divergence between the left and the right. Now, I mentioned the other day there's a growing body of data that shows that the population decline in the United States is specifically related to progressives not having kids. And here, what I find interesting is that the men and women who voted for Harris, who are in Gen Z, the highest level for having kids is out of 13 issues, number 10. And that's with the men, not the women. I find it very notably that the men who voted for Harris and the men who voted for Trump are both more interested in having kids than the women. Now, honestly, pregnancy, what you got to push out your body, I totally get it, ladies. I do. But concurrent to all of that, you want to perpetuate society and have people and a safety net to take care of you when you get old and have kids. You know, we're going to have a bunch of single Gen Zers on the left to expect the entirety of society to bend over backwards to take care of them when they're old because they never bothered to have a family and have kids. Going to have a lot of lonely people. Watch the uptick in desires for assisted suicide in this country as we have a bunch of lonely progressives getting older and not knowing what to do with themselves. It's a sad commentary on the left that they've decided essentially to liquidate themselves over time. They're not reproducing. They're not perpetuating families. They're lonely. They get bitter. They turn to politics as their religion. Next thing you know, they're at a Phillies game with that bob haircut trying to steal a baseball from a little boy. They're angry and isolated. Oddly enough, among the young people who voted for Harris, men and women, number one for the men and the women is have a job or career you find fulfilling. Number two is have enough money to do the things you want to do. Those are the nuns. You've seen the videos online of the nuns, the people who they don't have kids. They don't want kids. They want to be able to have fun, do it all, not have to worry about the burden of children. And you know what the data says? The data says that they think they're unhappy. Well, let me put it a different way to you to make more sense of it. The data of young progressives who are childless shows that they're unhappy. But they think the people more unhappy than them are the people who are married with kids. They think, I may be miserable, but my God, look at them. You know what the data actually says? The people who are married and have kids are the happiest. The people who are married, have kids, and regularly go to church, those are the most socially well-balanced people on the planet. Getting married, having kids, going to church actually does something for your well-being. Actually does something for your mental health. It does something for your social and emotional health. All these young people without kids and without marriages, they're like, I don't want to. I may be miserable, but I'm not going to be as miserable as those people. Turns out those people are far less miserable. In fact, I dare say they're happy. I got to tell you, I had a conversation last night with a friend of mine who his career has taken off and he's miserable because he's not home with his family all the time. And I get it. And, you know, there were days when my career was taking off and I thought, you know, think about all the other stuff I could do. If I wasn't married and didn't have kids, if I was not shackled to a wife and kids, I could move to New York or Washington and I could have a much more explosive career. And then I see my friends who did that. They're the most miserable people on the planet. Forget the substance abuse and addiction, their misery, their malcontentedness. I know a guy, and buddy, you know I love you, and you know I'm talking about you, and I know you're listening right now because you listen every day. And I'll just say what I said to you in email. Moved to Washington, D.C., your career took off. You never got married. You never had kids. You're now in your late 40s, and you've become radicalized. You believe every conspiracy theory. You're angry. You're tribalist. You know I love you. But I see this, as I have said to you directly, way too often. The people who get to middle age and they're childless, they're unmarried, they're the most radicalized people on the planet. They live in isolation, and they're the most tribal people. They can't afford to break away from their tribal talking points because if they lose their tribe, they've lost their entire safety net of community support. You know, if you get married and you have kids, you've built your own support. You don't have to go find someone else's tribe. You've made your own tribe. You become the leader of that tribe, and too many people aren't. And too many people on the left who've decided to stay single and never get married are going to be the most radicalized people on planet Earth and concurrently the most miserable. That's not my opinion, by the way. That's what the data actually shows. Can we talk about quality for just a minute? Because I can tell you, as I'm updating some furniture in my house that's lasted a very long time, it pains me to see all the cheapy disposable furniture where you're buying cheap stuff that you replace more often. You're actually losing money. It's like people who go out and they buy very cheap sheets, but at the same time, there are people who think they've got to throw thousands of dollars at bed sheets. I actually know someone who spent $1,500 on sheets. My Bull and Branch sheets, they've lasted longer than that guy's sheets, and they're super soft now. They're not the highest thread count, no, but they're organic cotton, and they're long-lasting, and they get softer over time. Feel the difference an extraordinary night's sleep makes with Bull and Branch. Get 15% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets at bullandbranch.com/Eric. That's Bull and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/Eric, ERICK. Save 15%, unlock free shipping. Exclusions apply. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. So I did this event with Scott Jennings last night in Macon, Georgia. My buddy Cole Muzio asked me for Frontline Policy to introduce Scott at this event. It was very funny. He was talking about his time at CNN. He actually had a great line. He said that the network is, now that they're being sold, they're going to rename the network to Scott, because that's what they say more than the name of the network. It's true. On the struggle session, the nightly struggle session they have, I think the name of the program is Struggle Session with Abby Phillips, where you get all the communists in the room led by Abby Phillips, and they just berate poor Scott Jennings all night. But Scott, but Scott. It really is just remarkable. I increasingly rely on News Nation, and I'm on there occasionally. I haven't been on in a while, in large part because I've been busy. My buddy Leland Vittert, by the way, Leland has a new book coming out that you should check out. I don't do book reviews on the show, but I'm going to have to get him on because I'm really enjoying Leland's book. But News Nation is what CNN claims to be. It is a very fair and balanced network where they push people on both sides, and the reporters and anchors are very good at playing devil's advocate to both sides to pinpoint the weaknesses of their arguments. And it's what CNN should do, but they're too Epstein obsessed and they hate Donald Trump, and they got to have Scott Jennings on to kind of correct the narratives on the programs and get the crazy to settle down. If you aren't watching News Nation, particularly my buddy Leland Vittert, it's great program, great network, and he's got a great book coming out. I've just become a big fan of News Nation. It's where I tend to watch my news these days. Now, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm because, well, not only is it good, but I keep one in my travel bag, and I had to use it on the back porch a couple weeks ago when the window was open. I didn't realize it, and the place smelled like my smoker. It's an air purifier, but it also wipes out odors. It eliminates odors. It generates ozone. And ozones are, not to delve into the science here, but ozone is O3. One molecule of ozone has 3 atoms of oxygen, which is deeply unstable. And when ozone touches the ionized particles, it releases that one oxygen atom and wipes out the odor. Very simple. Spare me the lectures on science. You know the point I'm making. It neutralizes the odor. So no odor can stand up to it. And it's a great way to wipe out bad odors. You get 3 of them. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3, and you can literally get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms for less than $200, and you're saving $200. And you wipe out odors. EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you can only pick 2. What if you could have all 3 at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they've upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How's it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and for all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/Erickson, Erickson. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America, from Anchorage, Alaska to Miami, Florida, across the country, coast to coast. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, be delighted to have you. If you want to find out the social media links, follow me on Instagram. You should always follow me on Instagram, but we've got a 24/7 feed where you can always listen to the show, the podcast, 4 Things to Know in the Afternoon. We've even got my daily email that you should subscribe to. Make it very easy for you. Just text the word Eric, my name, E-R-I-C-K, not E-R-I-C, not E-R-I-K, but E-R-I-C-K. Text that to the number 33777. You can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, all of it. The jobs numbers I mentioned at the top of the show, they have been revised downward significantly. 911,000 job decline through March of 2025. Now, that's notable because the actual numbers of revisions down more than 50% higher than last year's adjusted revisions happened at the end of the Biden administration. Happened at the end of the Biden administration. This is not, this $911,000 revision downward is not a revision down during the Trump economy, but during the Biden economy. And that's being glossed over by a lot of people who are taking shots at Donald Trump on this. That's intellectually dishonest. This is the Biden administration's numbers. There's a relationship to the crime data. Let me talk about the jobs numbers first, though. There was a weird phenomenon last year where Democratic strategists would exasperatedly look at the cameras on TV and say, the data is actually really good. I don't know why people think the economy is bad. It's got to be Fox News. Philip Bump at the Washington Post would write these stories about how Fox News was convincing people everything was bad. And the data showed that everything was good. CNN did it, MSNBC did it, the New York Times did it, the Washington Post did it, ABC, CBS, NBC, God knows PBS and NPR did it. The data shows the economy is fine. People are being talked out of a good economy by Donald Trump. Donald Trump's telling people the economy is bad. No, what it was is that people were using their lived experience. That's something that the media used to talk about all the time, is we must believe people's lived experience. And people's lived experience was the economy was not good. And the media would say, oh, no, look at the data, look at the data, look at the data. The data shows it's good. The data shows the economy is roaring. The data shows inflation is down. Remember, it was transitory. We always knew it wasn't. It is true. It is a statement of fact that the U.S. economy outperformed everybody else. We had lower inflation than European countries. We had higher employment than European and Asian countries. We had more stable currency. We had a more stable economy. We had fewer job losses. We had a better stock market than China, than Europe, you name it. Our economy is better than theirs. But you know, a ship with a bullet hole in it taking on water slowly is still slowly sinking compared to a ship that is riddled with bullet holes. Just because our ship was sinking slower than their ships doesn't mean that the ship of state was sailing just fine. but they said the data was good. Well, it turns out the data was not good. The data was bad. We've had a downward revision of 911,000 jobs. Let me just read you this from CNBC. The labor market created far fewer jobs than previously thought, according to a Labor Department report Tuesday that added to concerns both about the health of the economy and the state of data collection. Annual revisions to non-farm payroll data for the year prior to March 2025 showed a drop of 911,000 from the initial estimates, according to a preliminary report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The total revision was on the high end of Wall Street expectations, which ranged from a low of around 600,000 to as many as 1 million. The revisions were more than 50% higher than last year's adjustment and the largest on record going back to 2002. On a monthly basis, they suggest average job growth of 76,000 less than initially reported. The numbers, which are adjusted from data in the quarterly census and reflect updated information on business openings and closings, add to evidence the employment picture in the United States is weakening. They should say was weakening because it was data from March of 2024 to March of 2025. The times that Americans were telling reporters that they didn't feel like the economy was strong, and reporters were saying people don't feel like it, but the data sure shows it's a good economy. You know, I can look at the IP addresses of people who listen to my live stream in places like Washington, D.C., where I'm not on a radio station in Washington, D.C., but I've got a large live stream audience in Washington, D.C., and I can tell the White House and Congress generate a number of listens from the IP addresses. I mean, it's just public information. You can get the account. You can see where your data is coming from, and I can see that there are people listening in with computers, or they're attached to internet at like whitehouse.gov or house.gov or senate.gov. I can see the data. I don't know how many people are listening to my program who might be at CNN or Fox News or CNBC or NBC or MSNBC. I can't see that data. I don't know how many reporters are listening to me right now. But if you're a reporter listening to me right now, I want you to think about all of the stories from this past year where you all insisted the data showed the economy was good. The data showed the job market was good. The data showed everything was better than what people felt. And I want you to think about all the news stories about people who kept telling reporters they didn't feel good. They were worried about the economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And how dismissive, it wasn't just Democrats, it was reporters. It was the analysts at the Washington Post. It was the Phil Bumps. It was the people on CNBC. It was the talking heads on CNN, the economists, who were like, yeah, people say it's not good. They just can't appreciate. They must still be stuck in their COVID mindset of when it was COVID and we're out of COVID and now it's time to recognize everything is good. And yet the data revised shows that the people were right and the reporters were wrong. The people were right. The Democrats were wrong. The people were right. The data was wrong. And now I want you to think about crime. Because the same thing's happening now. We're told about the FBI data, but did you know how the FBI has changed how they calculate the data? And some cities have given up sending in the data. Some cities have given up integrating their data with the FBI. Some cities are still trying to use the old system, and it's making all sorts of mistakes, and the data isn't right. And yet reporters, Phil Bump, the Washington Post, CNN, they're all like, crime is down in America. Crime is down because people aren't reporting it. When businesses know the police won't do anything, when the shoplifter shoplifts, the business stops reporting the crime. We have more and more businesses putting every product behind those plexiglass walls where you need the employee with the key, go to a CVS or a Walgreens, In some places, it's literally every product on every shelf needs an employee to get the product. It's impossible to go shopping. And yet they want you to believe that the crime data shows that crime is down. Yeah, the labor data showed we had a great economy last year, and they've just revised that. They're not going to revise the crime data, though, because people aren't going to go retroactively complain about the crimes they didn't report the first time. When a city says we're not going to do anything about the crime that you report, why waste your time reporting? And yet the National Press Corps very arrogantly wants to lecture Americans that it's really just Fox News telling you things are bad. It's not that things are bad. It's really Donald Trump lying to you about crime. It's not that he's telling the truth and crime is bad, because the data is bad. The data's made up. The data's inconclusive. The data is not right. The data is phoned in. The data lies. And what reporters have decided to do is trust the data and not the people. Reporters, American reporters, stopped believing the American people. American reporters decided it was better to trust the data if the data makes the Democrats look good or the data makes the Republicans look bad than it was to trust Americans' perceptions, because perceptions are subjective and emotional and the data is the data. But what if the data is wrong? You trusted the jobs data and lied to the American people as a result, because that data has now been revised. Or are you suddenly going to say it's the Trump administration lying about the data revision? Actually, I think what this shows is that the Trump administration was completely right in firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And do you want to know the wild, true thing that is still true? The actual revisions have gotten better than they used to be. Even as this last one was so out of line, historically, it's gotten better, but it's still not good. It could still be fixed. And it does tie in perfectly to the crime issue. Because the data collection, we know the data collection is bad on crime. We know there are cities that aren't keeping up with the changes the FBI made. We know there are victims of crime who aren't reporting the crimes. We know there are cities where the police are so overwhelmed and they can't address all the reports. You know, in my city, my wife accidentally set the alarm off at our house a couple of weeks ago. The alarm company called. Her phone was dead. She didn't take the call. I was traveling. I didn't answer the phone. It took the police 3 hours to show up for a purported home break-in at our house. 3 hours later, the police showed up. The police are overworked and overwhelmed, and they're not responding to everything. And a lot of people know it does them no good to report the crimes because the police can't do anything. They won't do anything, and it's just a waste of time to even bother. And yet the media wants to tell us everything is fine because the data says it's fine. Members of the press, would you please stop just relying on the data? Stop relying on it. Believe the American people when they tell you they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe. They don't feel safe in big cities. They don't feel safe getting on the subway. They get harassed by homeless people, and you act like, well, that's just part of living in the big city. No person should have to fear being harassed or stabbed to death on light rail or a subway. No person should have to feel like they might be burned alive by a crazy person on a subway in New York City, something that's happened. No person in the United States should feel like they're unsafe at night in their community because we're Americans. We should not have to feel like we're in danger at night. We should be able to feel safe. It should be a constitutional right. My gosh, the amount of money we pay to fund a government that's supposed to keep us safe. I'm flabbergasted by the amount of reporters who can't get a clue here now. We keep having these revisions. We keep having the data that shows the data was wrong, and yet they don't want to believe the American people who don't feel safe and feel like the economy hasn't been performing. And by the way, there's a lesson here, too, for those of you who support the president and for the president's team. Don't do this either. Americans right now say they are feeling the effects of inflation, and that's actually the tariffs. Please stop lecturing us that the tariffs aren't having an impact when it is actually not just the data, but our own shopping experience that shows us. Stop gaslighting us, everyone. But you people in the press who keep lecturing us saying it's Donald Trump gaslighting, you know, it turns out you were the ones gaslighting us for an entire year, telling us the economy was good when the economy was not good. It was the data that was wrong and the American people that were right. Where is the apology from you, the press corps, to the American people for lecturing them that they actually had it better than they did when, in fact, they were right the whole time? Will they get that apology? I won't hold my breath, but I kind of wish you guys would. Mike Pence, the former vice president, has a new group, Advancing American Freedom. They've been around for a little while. I'm a big fan. I was supposed to go to their event at Kiowa Island in October to speak and got made an offer I couldn't refuse to do something once in a lifetime and had bail on them. He's urging from his group Republican lawmakers to commit to steeper budget cuts to return federal spending to pre-pandemic levels. I wish he actually would. Tim Chapman, the president of the organization, has this letter out with Mike Pence behind it, saying it's actually time to get serious about cutting the spending. My buddy Chip Roy, who is running now for Attorney General in Texas, actually did an interview with the Daily Signal saying one way to do this is to actually embrace the spending levels from Joe Biden's administration and make it long term. It's not a finalized proposal. Multiple Freedom Caucus members told the Daily Signal that a long-term stopgap funding bill or continuing resolution to further extend current spending could actually reduce the deficit and provide political stability. Essentially, Keith Self of Texas, Chip Roy, Andy Harris, and others are saying that if we just go to Biden-era level spending and we don't increase it all, we're actually going to be reducing the deficit. We're going to be reducing the deficit because we'll be spending what Joe Biden wanted to spend, and it's actually less than where some of the projections are. And with the revenue that's coming in from tariffs and elsewhere, we'll be on solid ground. They're not wrong. Rand Paul has for a very long time advocated going back to 2018 levels of spending. That's less than a decade ago. Can we not go back to 2018 levels of spending and actually, reduce the debt and the deficit? We need to. We're now topping $38 trillion in national debt. It's gone up $1.5 trillion. It's remarkable to me, the massive amount of spending that the Republicans, not the Democrats, that the Republicans are doing. And the solution might actually be to go back to the Democrats' level of spending, which was actually less than what we're spending right now. It's something that needs to be considered, and it's conservatives leading the way on this yet again in D.C. We've got to take the spending seriously, or taxes are going to go up, whether we think we have a tax problem or not. It's what's going to happen if we don't deal with the situation very soon. Hillsdale College would love for you to spend some time with them at no charge to you. You can take one of 40 different classes from Hillsdale College. You go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You sign up with Hillsdale College, and you can take lots of different classes from them. They're all very good. And the way that they work is they're video lectures. They're 30-minute episodes. Depending on the class, depends on the number of episodes. Some are 10, some are 12 episodes, but the 30-minute lectures by Hillsdale's faculty, they're very good faculty, very good lectures, very entertaining and mentally stimulating for you. What you do is you go to Eric, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You sign up today at Hillsdale College, And you can really start making a meaningful, impactful difference on your mind with some of these great, great, great classes from Hillsdale College, whether it's the Federalist Papers or the Constitution or the Early American Republic or the Roman Republic or the Fall of Rome or C.S. Lewis or the writings of Shakespeare or Genesis and the Bible or chemistry or math or economics. They're all there. They're all available completely free. EricForHillsdale.com, ERICK, EricForHillsdale.com. Sign up with them today.